Valentine's Day is usually a day filled with romance, flowers, chocolates, and couples celebrating their love for one another. However, every so often, it's a day that brings about creepy and mysterious events that often go unsolved for decades. Number 5. Canadian logger and forest engineer Grant Hadwin worked in the community of Goldbridge, where he became increasingly frustrated at the way that forest clearing was being conducted in the area, and after writing letters of concern to the media and other prominent individuals, he quit his job and decided to travel instead. During the 1990s, Hadwin is said to have become increasingly paranoid and eccentric, which is evident from further letters that he wrote to the media and potential employers, in which he further expressed his dislike of the way the forest industry conducted its business. In January of 1997, Hadwin made his way to Graham Island, a part of the Hadwin archipelago, located 55 miles off the coast of Canada. Here he started giving his personal belongings away to some of the locals, creating further concern for his mental well-being. He then purchased a chainsaw, a gas can, and falling wedges used in the felling of trees. On January 20th, 1997, Hadwin swam the breadth of the Yukon River and used his chainsaw to make a series of deep strategic cuts in a 300-year-old spruce tree that was considered by the locals to be a huge part of their mythological culture. It was the only spruce tree in the world that had golden yellow needles and had been standing there for over 300 years. These cuts would ultimately cause the tree to fall 3 days later. This caused outrage in the community, and Hadwin fled to Prince Rupert, where he was charged for the crime he had committed. He decided to return to Graham Island for his court date by kayak for fear that he would be attacked if he took the ferry. Hadwin was last spotted on his kayak on February 14, 1997. Pieces of his kayak were found approximately 4 months later, but Hadwin has never been heard from again. Theories range from people believing that he met with misfortune upon his arrival to Graham Island, though others speculate that due to his knowledge of nature, he disappeared intentionally, living off the land to this day. Number 4. Something is going to happen. These are the only words that Nevada bank teller Maureen Fields could use to explain her perturbed behavior on the 14th of February 2006. That would be the last time that she would ever be seen. When Maureen didn't show up for work the following day, her co-workers called her husband, Paul, who claimed that she left for work that morning as usual, but didn't know where she might have gone instead. Paul inquired with the police whether there'd been any reports of an accident involving a green 2004 Hyundai, the car driven by Maureen, but didn't mention his wife's disappearance at all. The following day, Maureen's vehicle was found 20 miles away in the Mojave Desert, abandoned 120 feet from the highway. Police still found her keys in the ignition, and the car's driver's seat was fully reclined, and her purse, wallet, and credit cards were still inside. Her glasses and slippers were found under the car's gas pedal, and a rifle was found in the back seat along with a pair of knotted pantyhose and various bottles of prescription drugs, one of which was empty. Outside the car, a blanket was laid out upon which traces of blood were found. At first, it was speculated that Maureen had driven her car to the desert in order to commit suicide, but this theory was quickly dismissed when it was found that one of the bottles of prescription drugs had been wiped clean of fingerprints, and upon finding male DNA on the knotted pantyhose. Police immediately suspected her husband, Paul, since Maureen had told her family that if she ever disappeared, they were to tell the police that Paul had something to do with it. Paul maintained that he'd spent the night with his wife at home, though phone records showed that he'd made a call to a friend that night, with the call pinging off a cell phone tower that was all the way across town, indicating that he had left the house at least for a period of time during the night. In 2012, the DNA from the pantyhose found in Maureen's car was discovered to belong to Keith Wayne Holmes, an 81-year-old convicted sex offender, who by this time suffered from dementia. Police found a newspaper clipping of an anniversary article about Maureen's disappearance in Holmes's camper, hidden underneath his mattress. Holmes became less lucid every time he was questioned, and in 2014, he passed away, taking to his grave with him any information regarding Maureen's disappearance and whereabouts. Number 3. In 1993, China Rose Sims confided in her sister Joy that her husband, David Sims, had told her that he wanted to hire a hitman to get rid of her, as it'd be cheaper than getting a divorce. David had become increasingly violent towards her after joining the Metropolitan Police, and China Rose told Joy that she feared for her life. This should come as no surprise, as David's previous 3 wives had all left him because of his violent temper tantrums. He'd been kicked out of the police's SPG after he attacked an inspector during a drunken rage, and he was also suspected in the death of a 33-year-old Blair Peach at the Anti-National Front demonstration in 1979. China Rose expressed on multiple occasions that she wanted to leave David, but found herself with nowhere to go. In 1993, she's reported to have attended a Valentine's Day party, which is the last time she was ever seen. Her family is adamant that she would not have left on her own without informing them, as she was devoted to her very ill father. She's not contacted any of her family since. Strangely, 1 month after China Rose's disappearance, David went missing too. He was last seen at their home in South End. Jeffrey Paston, who lived with David and China Rose, told police that he was instructed by David to sell the South End house and deposit the money into a bank account in the name of Anthony Peter Lewis, an alias of David's. $10,000 of the $40,000 that the house was sold for still remains in that same account, with no attempts being made to access the funds. Paston later told police that he feared for his life as there were heavy characters involved in the disappearances of both China and David Sims. Number 2. For the last 24 years, Janice Billings Havens, sister to Donald Ray Billings, does not celebrate Valentine's Day. Rather, it's a stark reminder of the disappearance of her brother, a mystery that remains frustratingly unsolved to this day. Donald was a kind and caring man that lived in Virginia, in Marion, a town where disappearances are not commonplace. He was the kind of man who was helpful to strangers in need, and he had a weekly bowling date with his sister Janice, which he never missed. However, on the 14th of February, 1997, he didn't arrive at the bowling alley as arranged, and she knew that something was horribly wrong as he'd been acting out of character that day. He'd made a comment that he would never do anything to hurt his mother, which was a strange thing for him to say according to Janice. She felt that he might have known that something was going to happen to him. She tried to file a missing persons report but was told by police that she'd have to wait 48 hours to do so, as is often the case. 2 days later, police told Janice that Donald had been involved in a single-vehicle car crash while driving his car. Witnesses to the accident say that they offered assistance after the car slid off the road, but Donald insisted that he was fine, locked the car, put the keys in his pocket, and started walking down the road. This would be the last time he'd ever be seen. Police searched the woods surrounding the area, but not a single clue was found that day. There are many theories that exist regarding Donald's disappearance, ranging from a head injury that may have caused him to become confused and caused him to wander off into the woods, and succumbing rapidly to the dropping temperatures. Some speculate that drug dealers in the area may have put a hit on Donald, or that he was placed into witness protection after he'd informed police of a meth operation that was being run by his friends. There's even a theory that he may have hitched a ride from a truck driver at the village truck stop along Interstate 81 in Virginia. No evidence has ever been found though, and we can't even confirm that he ever left the last road that he was seen walking down. Number 1. Helen Hooper met her husband Walter when she was just 16 years old in 1961. Walter was 50 at the time. 1 year later, they decided to marry in London and eventually had 3 children, to add to the son and daughter that Walter had on a previous marriage. It was not an easy relationship, and by many accounts, Helen had attempted to leave Walter on 3 occasions, only to return every time. After moving to Broken Green Hamlet, near Standen in the 1970s, Helen became a teacher at the Haddam Hall School, where she met Colin Clark, who also worked at the school, and the two entered into a relationship. It's believed that she intended to move in with Clark, and that she decided to tell her husband of her intent on the 13th of February of that year. During that night, one of their sons woke up to the sound of the couple arguing. When she was not present the following morning, Walter told the children that she'd gone shopping. She never returned, and no one has seen her since. Helen was meant to meet up with Clark that same day, but never showed up. Walter maintains that on Valentine's Day, a man came to the house, and Helen had gotten into the man's car, and the two of them sped away from the house, never to be seen again. He also claims that he had no knowledge whatsoever of Mr. Clark or any relationship between Helen and Clark. Helen's parents stated that Walter didn't seem worried or upset when she didn't return home, and only contacted police after being prompted to do so. Walter was regarded by police as the #1 suspect in Helen's disappearance, questioning him on multiple occasions and even charging him with her murder when he was 63 years old. This was, of course, all in vain, and there was no proof of foul play, save for minute bloodstains belonging to Helen that were found at their home on a pair of shoes and a knife. When the case was thrown out of court, Walter expressed his joy at the outcome and said that he felt the verdict was fully justified and that the police had turned his life into a nightmare. But it's still strange that during a police interview, Walter allegedly said, "If I can't have her, nobody else will." Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.